Hi, everybody. Today we are with Mark Leavitt from Utah, and Mark is the affiliation director for the Leavitt Group, which is an insurance broker, very big in the United States. And today Mark's going to be telling us about his career and business and about private jets. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So, Mark, I'd like to hear a bit about your upbringing, because it's always interesting to hear how people get to where they are today, how they got to where they are today. So tell us a bit about your upbringing and those key moments which really have kind of set you off on your business career.
Well, I kind of grew up in this business simply because my father started this in 1952.
Mm-hmm.
He was a school teacher and was selling insurance on weekends and during the summer when he was off, and it became clear that it was a better career, and he took off with it. We pretty much grew up with the business as it has grown and expanded.
Mm-hmm.
I have five brothers. There are six sons, no daughters.
Okay.
In the family, and most of them, well, I shouldn't say that. Let's see, four of the six have had some connection to being involved in the family business.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have our own in on the business together,
Mm-hmm.
even those that don't make their livings on a day-to-day basis there. But we essentially got into this, and as we have had opportunities to grow and take on various responsibilities with the skill set that each of us carry,
Yeah.
we've been able to go from there. Fortunately, we have not all carried the same set of skills.
That's good.
It's very good. There's not been a lot of, in fact, there's never been a day where there has been an argument between the brothers of this ought to be my role and that ought to be mine, and that ought to be yours, simply because it has really flowed remarkably well. The role that I have played has been that of developing relationships and opportunities, putting together transactions, and buying insurance agencies. In the last 20 years, we have probably done 150 plus transactions, many of them being rolled into existing agencies, others being standalone new dots on the map. We currently have 135 locations through 19 states, mostly in the West, but we have made a push into the Deep South and go all the way across the Deep South, and now working hard on the Midwest.
Yeah. Now I know there was a key formative experience that you had just after high school, where you served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in South America, in Bolivia. Can you tell us a bit about that experience and how that's helped you with your business life?
Honestly, I don't know that there have been any experiences that have been a better training ground or a better formative foundation than my mission. Bolivia in the 1970s was a very, very backward place. It was probably 50 years behind the United States at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, to some people that would seem like a drudgery. To me, it was an adventure, and I loved every moment. There were times where we were literally living in towns with jungles on all sides and monkeys swinging through the trees, and it was a great adventure. But the things that you learn, the learning to work, learning to dedicate yourself to a single cause, and even more than that, learning that there was a cause greater than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Was truly one of the greatest elements of learning on my mission. The skill of Spanish has become one of the greatest blessings in my life. I maintain it. I use it constantly.
Yeah.
While it's not been necessarily in buying agencies, it's in today's world in the United States, you're almost a minority if you don't speak Spanish, and so as we've gone to it's come in handy in a lot of situations. Again, not to negotiate for agencies, but when people realize, if there's something will pop up as we build a relationship and being able to utilize the Spanish and people say, well, wow, where did you get that? And that opens up an opportunity to say, well, I served several years in South America, and it kind of gives people a feel for who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah, great. So how important is having a family, do you think, to an entrepreneur today? Because obviously you mentioned that there's 4 of you that are actively in the business as brothers, and you've never argued, you've always been in agreement in that. How has family helped you, and being married and having children helped you as an entrepreneur?
Well, it's powerful. I mean, I essentially there are lots of reasons why we end up buying insurance agencies. Some of it is perpetuation as they get older, but many cases it's just because they're tired of being alone.
Yeah.
The concept of the Lone Ranger being the guy that he's the only one and he doesn't have anybody to really talk to or to go with, and in my case, having 5 brothers that are remarkable men in their own right has been remarkably powerful. I know not only do I have my wife and my children that support me and my parents, but I have 5 brothers that I could go to in a heartbeat and they would be there for me.
Yeah.
The ability, people that are without family, sometimes it's by choice, sometimes it's by circumstance.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine in my world being able to have that kind of have this kind of experience without a family that's supportive.
Yeah. So when did your love for aviation start? And is this something that just you have, or even your brothers?
No, I am the only one smitten.
Okay.
The rest, I tell everyone we're far too bright to do this.
Okay.
It's since the time I was a young boy, I was very smitten with aviation. We had during the time of the first moon launch.
Yeah.
I used to pretend that I was an astronaut, and like so many other young boys.
Yeah.
But mine continued, and as I came home from my mission, my plan was to get my pilot's license immediately upon returning.
Yeah.
Circumstances made it to where that did not happen.
Okay.
But I shortly after I was married, a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's buy an airplane," and I said, "Dude, we don't fly." And he said, "Well, we can learn in it." And I said, "Let's take a lesson or two." And I went up for the first time and was deeply smitten. The mistake I made is I didn't tell my wife, and so I had to go back after 2 or 3 lessons and say, I am really want to do this, and have that explanation and that conversation, which was, she's always been supportive and helpful, but lesson learned. Anyway, but yeah, that's essentially started flying in 1983, and my first aircraft was a 1961 182.
Okay.
It was the 1 year that had a swept tail but no rear window.
Oh, okay.
And so when I see one anywhere on a ramp, I know that's a 61, and it's a remarkable old aircraft. From there we went. I bought a Turbo Lance, which is a retractable six-seat single.
Uh-huh.
I flew the Lance for about 12 years.
So this all started as a hobby, really, and then you started using it.
It absolutely started as a hobby.
Yeah.
It was just a love for aviation, love for flying.
Yeah.
The idea that I could do that was, and then I'd use it sporadically in business, but it was mostly just to get from point A to B without really anything other. Well, I could drive or I could fly, and took off with the flying. As I moved back to Cedar City to work with my brothers on the insurance side, I was working in the real estate development and the agribusiness side. We had at the time and still do. We have a cattle ranch where we run 1,000 mother cows in a cow-calf operation.
Is this in Utah or is this somewhere else?
In Utah.
Okay. In
central Utah, a little town called Loa.
Okay.
We also had 1,000 dairy cows. We were farming about 2,800 acres, and then also had we had some springs, and so we started fish farms, and we got to the point where we were raising about 700,000 or 800,000 pounds of trout, and so we had a processing plant, and then we started using it to go to customers and to make sales and to work through those kind of things. And that was really the first time that aviation became a business tool for me, was in the fish business. In 1998, I moved back to Cedar City, and I brought the aviation with me. My brothers were fascinated and wanted me to start using it in the insurance side. And as we started doing that, it became clear that we needed more capable aircraft. We needed more all-weather.
So do you do aviation insurance as well for aircraft or on?
You know, we do. We have access, but that is one of the things that, you know, our company writes over $3 billion in premiums.
Yeah.
Those would be our sales, and yet we don't do our own aviation. We have access to all of the markets, but that is something that I trust someone who really knows and understands. And you know, and whether this is part of this or not, this is a very important element in our development, and that was we had an accident in 2008 that was our plane, our pilot, but was taking a group of doctors to do some.
What aircraft did you have back then?
It was a King Air A100.
Okay.
And the plane crashed and killed 10 of them.
Ooh.
Yeah. And if we'd not had the proper, you know, the year before I had changed brokers to a broker that I truly believed knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And if we had not done that, we would have found ourselves in a very deep
trouble. Yeah.
Situation indeed.
Yeah.
He helped me to dot the I's and cross the T's in ways that were way more important. That when it comes down to it, that an insurance carrier certainly would have had potential to deny the claim and leave us hanging.
So what was the cause of the accident? Can you talk about that?
You know, I wish I could. After 2 years of investigation, the final result came down to the final ruling came down to the pilot failed to maintain separation between the aircraft and the ground.
So it was controlled flight into terrain then, CFIT incident?
No, it was, I mean, they just said they don't know. I mean,
where did it happen? What was the location?
It was Moab, Utah. The doctors had been there doing cancer screenings in a rural area.
Yeah.
And they took off, and he crashed about 1.6 miles from the end of the runway. In the end of the day, my belief is that our 42-year-old 150-pound, looked like the peak of health pilot, had some kind of incapacitating event.
Yeah, could be.
And in the end, the medical examiner found that his arteries were over 90% occluded, and so that's the only conclusion we could come to. But they did not have enough to make that conclusion, and so they said it hit the ground. Okay.
So tell us about how today. So the King Air obviously is no longer there. Then did you get any other aircraft?
Well, at the time we went from the Lance. I went to a Cessna 340. Okay. And we flew that for several years, and then the markets got soft enough that I convinced them that we really should try to go turbine. The value of turbine versus piston was just so marked. Yeah. And so we bought the first King Air, which was the A100. Shortly after that, it became very clear we were using it a lot. We were probably flying between the 340 and the King Air. We were probably flying 700 hours a year. Wow. And taking teams to do due diligence. Finding other agencies and so on to look at. But people kept trying to find ways to not go in the 340 and to go in the King Air. So we sold the 340 and bought another King Air. So we had a C90 and the A100, and those were the planes that we had at the time. We also made a deposit on a new aircraft coming up, an Eclipse. Yeah, Eclipse 500. And we actually took delivery of the Eclipse 500 about a week before the accident.
Okay.
And actually, the pilot that was there, I was in the middle of a bunch of transactions and couldn't go to the training. I sent him. He became our only rated pilot, and then was killed a week after in this accident. So immediately I went back to the school and got rated so we could use the aircraft, and we flew the Eclipse for 8 years, and it was a wonderful little airplane. If it were just me, I would probably still be flying an Eclipse. But the people in the back, the Honda becomes a much more palatable and comfortable situation for them.
Yeah, so you no longer have the Eclipse then? You sold that?
We did. We've sold it, but we still have access. It's kind of the best of all worlds. We sold it locally.
Yeah.
It still remains in the hangar. If the Honda is gone, we can send the Eclipse. We also have a Meridian that is at our call if we need that. A good friend has a new Piper Meridian that we can send people out in as well.
Okay, so tell us a bit about how you use the plane to make money, in the sense that, give us a scenario of a typical day where you'd fly your executives out to visit a number of locations. Talk us through the type of airports you go into and the advantage of having a private jet.
Well, the advantage in our world starts with where we are. We're in Cedar City, Utah. There's commercial service, but it's 2 flights a day. There's a 9 o'clock flight and a 6:30 flight, and those really, are quite limiting in our access or ability to be able to reach, other places. Mm-hmm. So if we're going commercially, we end up driving to Las Vegas, which is about a 2.5 hour drive. Yeah. And from there we start those trips. But being able to get somewhere in a hurry, the Eclipse or the Honda becomes just a powerful tool. Okay. And it's kind of a hard thing to know exactly, how to define how it's used, because there's so many ways. But I mean, in all fairness, you get to live in a nice place. Yes. We live in a place here because we want to. Yeah, exactly. And that's great. I mean, you live in a great place, and your people live there, and so you all have a nice lifestyle, and you've got the jet that can take you anywhere. So I mean, you don't have to live in New York. No, and as I've become more and more spoiled, we have lots of agencies in big cities and beautiful places, remarkable places, and people always say, why in the world do you live in have a business and you run this out of Cedar City, Utah? Well, it's because we can, exactly. And because we can, this also gives us, like I say, the means to be able to get anywhere we want to. From Cedar City, Utah, I can be anywhere in the West in less than 2 hours. I can be to Seattle in 2, Los Angeles in 1 hour 10, Denver in 1 hour. I can anywhere in the West I can be there, and anywhere to the Midwest I can be there with a single tank of gas. I mean, we do have a limiting, but we went to Duluth, Minnesota the other day, up and back with on. Nonstop. We go Indianapolis, to Mississippi in our agencies there quite often, being able to go nonstop, and it becomes literally from the time somebody gets to the airport, climbs on the plane, 2.5 hours. You can be there and be home that night for dinner. I mean, it's remarkable. It's powerful. When you talk about how you use it to make money. There are 2 elements to that. One of them is you use it to make money to be able to be faster than anybody else, to be able to get where you need to go. And again, in our world, some places you just can't get to. I mean, we have agencies in Durango, Colorado, and Farmington, New Mexico. Well, Durango you can get direct. Was it an hour something flight? Yes, it's an hour flight, direct, or I can go commercially and take 12 hours. Yeah, there you go. So 1 hour compared to 12, yeah. Or I can drive and take 12 hours. Yeah. And so there are some of these places that we have things called the Grand Canyon or Canyonlands National Park that you don't drive through. You have to drive around. And so being able to get into some of these places it's a powerful tool to jump up over the top and be there.
Yeah.
So, but we in my world, most of the use comes from getting to, meeting with, and then building relationships with agencies that we then have the opportunity to work with. Most our model is we're not just buyers of agencies. We're really creators of partnerships. In we always own a majority interest in an agency, but we always have someone that has significant skin in the game on the ground in the agency, so that we can work very closely to make sure that all of the them and us, I know this is good for you, but why is it good for me? Questions are washed away, and then every decision in our businesses become one of this is the right decision for the entity, and he's treated the same way that we are by our ownership in the if he owns a 40% interest or a 30% interest, 30% of whatever benefit comes to the entity comes to him, and we work very hard to make sure that is what we call alignment of interests, that everyone has their interests together. So when we're going out, it's more than just, okay, I've got a checkbook and I'll give you a Happy Gilmore check. Here you go. Yeah. It's, do we fit? Yeah. Is this a good thing for you? Is this a good thing for your people? And then does it fit us and our culture? So being able to be there more than just once, or being able to be there, knee to knee, is just far more important in our world than it is in many others, because those that go out and just write big checks, it doesn't matter to them. Yeah. It's kind of, we call it feeding the lion. They write a big check and they shove everything into this, and they know it's going to spill out. But to us, the value of the business, the value of the culture that they've created is important.
Yeah. Okay.
So in my world, we use that. In the other worlds, being able to get people to our existing agencies where there might be a problem, or where there might be some kind of an emergency. Yeah. That comes up all the time. Okay. And that becomes valuable. When you say also making money, there are two kinds of making money. There's new revenues, but there's also and there's savings, but the other is efficiency of people. Yeah. I mean, you stick somebody on a plane that goes somewhere they go to Louisiana to meet with our agency in Shreveport, and it takes them 3 days. They've got 3 days that they're out of their beds. They've got 3 days away from their families. Yeah. You've got 3 days that they're putting up with TSA and crowds and people shoving and all of the above, and they come back burned out. Yeah. You throw them in the plane, you fly them there, you bring them back. It's a day, or at the most a day and a half event. Yeah. And they come back completely rested and ready to tear into it. Yeah. So there's some great values that are created by aviation.
Yeah, great. So when you operate the HondaJet, is it just you that flies it, or you have some pilots that work with you?
We have another pilot that flies. I go when I need to be somewhere, and otherwise he flies. A fine young pilot flew for the airlines for a few years and got tired of being away from home. Yeah. Been
there and done that. Got that T-shirt.
Yeah. And while it's always the dream to fly for the airlines, it also ends up being somewhat of a nightmare to those that family matters.
Yeah, but it's a good foundation. I mean, I always say, I was told back in the early days of my career, I started in private aviation flying citations, and then one captain I flew with said to me, go and fly for the airlines, because you'll learn to fly with the airlines. You'll fly with many different people. You'll fly standard operating procedures, many different destinations. You'll become a real solid pilot. And so I went and did that for 12 years, and it definitely improved my whole skill set as a pilot. And that's why we always recommend, when we sell a jet to somebody, to hire somebody with an airline background, because they've got that solidity, which sometimes people that just come through the ranks of private aviation don't have. Right. And I think that's really important. But let's go on to the HondaJet. What made you decide to buy the HondaJet and not one of its competitors? What did you like about it? What do you like about the HondaJet? Tell us a bit about it.
Well, this is we've not known you've not known anything about this, but I'll tell you quickly the story. Mm-hmm. With the Eclipse, we were on a waiting list for 8 years,
Yeah.
All of those that have taken delivery of a HondaJet have been on waiting lists for 10 years and deposit holders for 10 years.
Yeah.
We were neither. I in November of 15, I went to NBAA, which was in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is 2 hours away.
I was there too.
I was there. So I always go when it's in Vegas.
Yeah.
One of the first things I always do is go to the Honda exhibit and go and see what they've done, kind of talk to them, because I think all of us have been fascinated by the fact that this giant manufacturer has taken on this task of building an aircraft.
Yeah.
They're such remarkable manufacturers that you thought this is going to be a remarkable aircraft.
Yeah.
So I've followed it, but I've followed it at a distance.
Yeah.
And so this year I went to it. I went through their mock-up and sat in it. And as I walked out, one of the salesmen said, we expect certification to come maybe even during the show. And I said, that is cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I said, so if I decided I wanted to buy a HondaJet, how long would it take me to get one? And he said, well, that depends.
Yeah.
So what do you mean that depends? That seems like kind of a silly answer.
Uh-huh.
He said, well, Honda believes only in dealers. And some dealers have positions that are earlier than others.
Yeah.
So okay, all right. He says, "Where are you from?" And I said, "From Utah." And he says, "Well, I'll have the dealer from Utah give you a call." So I said, "All right." So anyway, a week later, I get a phone call. I was actually I was out in the Eclipse. We were in Colorado looking at a project, and the dealer said, "Now I need to let me just ask you some questions."
Was that Richard Winwood's team?
No, it's a fellow named Mike Parker.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Keystone Aviation.
Yeah, well, Richard Winwood was something to do with them because.
Oh yeah, I think that's right.
I know Richard, and he told me that they had a distributorship for HondaJet for Utah.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, he said, "Now are you part of the Leavitt Group?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, is Mike your brother? And Mike was governor of Utah for 3 terms, and then in President Bush's cabinet for a term and a half. And I said, "Yeah, Mike's my brother." And he goes, "My father and he were close friends, and Mike's kind of always a hero to me." And he said, "Can I just ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He says, "How interested are you in a HondaJet?" And I said, "Look, I'll be honest. I'm pretty happy with what we've got, and I'm kind of a tire kicker."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, let me tell you what I have." And I said, "All right." He says, "I either have the first or second delivery of a Honda."
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, we thought we would just keep it. But I think that rather than that, I'd like to find someone that we trust and know that we could maybe work out an arrangement where we could use it occasionally as a demo aircraft for the first 2 years.
Okay.
And I said, "Well, how would that work?" He says, "Well, first we'd discount it." And I said, "Well, you've said the magic word. Let's find out how that works." And so he came back and sent us a proposal. And we, within a week, came back and said, "We'll do it." And then 3 weeks later, we took delivery of the plane. So we were the first delivery, first retail delivery of a HondaJet in the world.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun, and it was a great event, and we were excited. But I had several of the Eclipse friends that had been on the list for 10 years, and they were a little frustrated, but they've since gotten over it since they've gotten their HondaJet. So it works out well. But why the Honda? The room. It was room, efficiency, and then because it's Honda.
Yeah.
I understand that had it been Cessna, they have remarkable service capabilities. They have a lot of things that are very positive. But in this case, one, I had a dealer that I knew was, one, close, and two, was going to be very interested because they were also using it with us at the time.
Yeah.
And so we Honda was absolutely a no-brainer. The over-the-wing engine mount creates I know that in fact I was there. A couple of NetJets pilots walked by, And I was thinking, oh, they're looking at it and thinking how beautiful. And I said, it's really beautiful, isn't it? He goes, well, if that's what you want to call it.
I like it. I think it's a cool design.
It is, but the advantages are so significant that whether you like the way it looks or not, it argues that it's pretty powerful. One, it separates the quiet of this thing, and vibration. There's just almost nothing. I mean, it's just amazingly quiet. The second thing is the fact that it doesn't have any superstructure holding engines onto the fuselage. You have a completely open tube. The space that's in this thing is astounding for a small jet. It has the luggage capacity is. I mean, you could pay for it by carrying illegal aliens in. There's just hundreds of them.
No, it's big. I mean, you look at it and it looks like a small plane, and then when you see the amount of bags that goes in the back, it's like, wow.
Yeah. No, I've never come close to. I mean, it's with the King Airs, I was never even. It didn't have near as much space as I have in the Honda, and the people in the back. I always tell everyone the fun of flying this is about 3x of flying the Eclipse, and I won't throw stones at the Eclipse. I love it. But this is just exhilarating. But for those sitting in the back, it's 10x. It's very comfortable. In fact, I can remove my headset and listen to a normal conversation in the back and pick up most of it while sitting in the cockpit.
That's cool.
It's remarkably quiet. People are comfortable. Have great capabilities at up to 43,000 feet in about 25 minutes, and you can go a long way sitting up there sipping gas at 580 pounds an hour. So.
So how do you think now, having a HondaJet and using a HondaJet as a business tool, how do you think that's going to help you to expand your business even further?
Well, we continue to grow. I don't know that it will help us to do it any faster than what we've been doing, but it's certainly going to make it a lot more fun and more comfortable.
Which is important.
The Eclipse was a wonderful first jet, but it is this is a great second one. And I told, in fact, when we took delivery, we sat with Michimasa Fujino, the designer and the president, and I said, I know that, one, you won't tell me, but two, I also know that you have to be developing the next aircraft.
No, they are. They're building a whole fleet. I was told.
I said, I want you to know that there ought to be a first customer loyalty program. And he laughed and he said, okay, the deal. So we have access to, we should be with a commitment from Mr. Fujino, we have the loyalty program for first customers.
Because I remember when Embraer rolled out their first private jet, and now you go to MBAA and you see them all lined up there. And I can see Honda doing that over the next 10 to 15 years.
They have to. I mean, you can't put a couple of $1 billion into this hoping to pay for it with one small aircraft. Yeah,
exactly. Well, Mark, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much for your time. It's been interesting to hear how you use the private jet to build your business, and the features of the HondaJet and why you like it, you're enjoying it. And thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, you're welcome, and we'll look forward to seeing how it works out for you. Thank you.
Thank you.